All right, some interesting comments here from Malik Scott, the trainer of Deontay Wilder. He was recently talking about how frustrated he is about the fact that the Wilder-Joshua fight hasn't yet been made. And he's not necessarily accusing Joshua of ducking the fight, but he's saying that Joshua isn't as enthusiastic about the fight as Deontay Wilder is. So to quote Malik Scott here, he says, Ruiz, as in Andy Ruiz, probably at this point has a better chance of fighting Wilder than Joshua. AJ is cool if he goes his whole career without fighting Deontay. He don't really mind it. You don't see him fighting for it. It's the fighters at the end of the point. I don't care what advisors like Shelly Finkel or Al Heyman are saying. You see Deontay out there calling fighters out. Like some of this, you have to take some of this from yourself. Like, bro, it wasn't Clubber Lang's trainer in Rocky 3 saying, I'ma get you, I'ma get you. It was Clubber Lang himself. He goes on to say, it wasn't Angelo Dundee chasing fighters. It was Muhammad Ali. Yeah, your promoters and managers are part of it. You have to do your job to get the big fights done. To me, AJ doesn't campaign about the fight enough. He doesn't really want it. And we all know why, because stylistically, he's picture perfect to be knocked the F out by Deontay. All right, those are the words of Malik Scott. I tend to agree for the most part. We know that AJ and Wilder was supposed to happen in Saudi Arabia, but the Saudis have had a changing of the guard when it comes to who gets to put on boxing matches over there. And the people that were previously doing the boxing skill challenge, they're now out the door. And there's a new team putting those kind of events on. And that is the reason that Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder didn't happen. Now, you could still do the fight in a different location. Is Anthony Joshua really pushing for it? No. Is Deontay Wilder really pushing for it? I haven't heard Wilder talk about it either, to be fair. But I have the impression that Wilder does want it more than AJ. One of the reasons I say this is because of AJ's reaction in the post-fight interview following the Robert Helenius fight. You guys remember that? When he was asked, is it going to be Deontay Wilder next? And he said, oh, I'm carrying the heavyweight division on my back. And he started walking away and all that weird stuff. Tried to make a joke out of it. It weren't funny. So, yeah, I tend to think that AJ isn't as keen, particularly after that Helenius performance. If he'd gone out there and blasted Helenius out in one round, he might have felt a bit more confident about going straight into a Deontay Wilder fight. But because he struggled the way he did, and he did struggle. Yes, he won the fight. Yes, he was ahead at the time he scored the knockout, but he got his face busted up against Robert Helenius. You know, you don't want to see that if you're trying to have confidence in somebody fighting a Deontay Wilder. You want to see someone that's going out there doing a demolition job on an opponent like Robert Helenius. I know styles make fights, but it's really about the confidence of Anthony Joshua. And talking about styles, Malik Scott said that Anthony Joshua's style is tailor-made for Deontay Wilder. I'm actually not sure about that. I don't think his style is tailor-made for Deontay Wilder. I think AJ's mentality is tailor-made for Deontay Wilder. I think if you had a fighter that had the mentality of Deontay Wilder, but the style and, you know, the physique and all that, the ability of Anthony Joshua, then I think that that guy can beat Deontay. I think that guy's a serious threat to Deontay Wilder. It's AJ's mindset that leaves him weak against Wilder. The fact that he's not fully confident, because Wilder is fully confident. Wilder is an animal in the boxing ring, whereas Anthony Joshua is kind of like a timid sheep. So that's the biggest issue, more so than the style. Now, some people say that AJ likes to block punches, and that's not good against Deontay Wilder because he can punch through your guard. You can't rely on blocking shots to beat Wilder. Well, I don't think Anthony Joshua would rely on blocking shots against Wilder. Maybe I'm wrong. I think he would primarily use his feet and try and keep the fight at a distance on the end of his jab and try and use his superior balance to control the action on the outside. And then at certain moments, at certain key opportune moments, he would leap in with power shots. Maybe that lead left hook. You got to be careful, obviously, with a lead left hook when you're fighting somebody that has a destructive right hand like Deontay Wilder. That, I think, would be the game plan. That would be the idea if AJ had the confidence to implement it, would be to, again, stay away from the right hand, not just block it and stop it that way, but actually use his feet to stay out of range, keep turning Deontay Wilder, moving to his right, okay, away from the right hand. So that's what I think the strategy would be. But yeah, I am generally in agreement with Malik Scott that Anthony Joshua doesn't seem overly keen. Maybe if the Saudis had come up with the money that they promised, which was, I don't know, something like 50 or 60 million for Anthony Joshua, he would have done it because, like, why not? You know, if I get knocked out, I get knocked out. It's still a massive payday, maybe the last big payday of my career. But if he can't get that kind of payday from a Deontay Wilder fight, maybe he looks elsewhere. And AJ still seems to be a confused fighter. You know, we're hearing about him training with Ben Davison. Derek James is his coach. Now, I know Derek James is in the United States and, you know, he's had fights with Jamel Charlo, as in the corner of Jamel Charlo and in the corner of Errol Spence. And yeah, AJ eventually, it is said, is going to go over to the States to start training with Derek James again. But you do wonder, because AJ is one of these kind of guys who takes information in from everyone. You know, I mean, famously prior to the, was it the rematch of Andy Ruiz or was it no, I think it was the first fight with Alexander Usyk. He leaned over the ropes and asked Clifton Mitchell, who is a former professional fighter, but he works security these days. He has a security company, does the security for most of Matchroom shows. And he leaned over the ropes and he asked Clifton Mitchell how he thinks he should approach the Alexander Usyk fight, right? The first fight. I mean, that's just a bizarre thing to do. And Spencer Oliver has talked about how Anthony Joshua is like this, how he's just like a sponge and he takes information from everyone. Yeah, it's great taking information from everyone when you're a novice. But when you are a two-time world champion, you're supposed to know a little bit about what you're doing. You're supposed to have some type of direction. You're not supposed to look at every single person as some type of guru, because then you just end up confused, because so many different trainers have got different philosophies, different ideas on boxing. And so if you're listening to everyone at once, again, you just end up a confused fighter with a confused style, not sure what you're doing, what you should be doing rather. And that's what I'm wondering with Anthony Joshua going to Ben Davison's gym. Yeah, he's got to train somewhere to tick over while he's in the UK. But again, you just wonder about this guy. So that's my take on Malik Scott's comments with regards to the Anthony Joshua-Deontay Wilder fight. As I said in a previous video, I'd like to see the fight, but at this stage, if the fight doesn't happen, would you really be that bothered? Because we're already getting the undisputed fight. I mean, if, God forbid, the undisputed fight doesn't happen, then yeah, AJ versus Wilder would again be a consolation prize. But presuming that undisputed fight goes ahead, AJ Wilder, two former champions, both been knocked out, 3 losses apiece, AJ looking terrible in his last few fights, Deontay Wilder very inactive. Does that fight really need to happen anymore? It needed to happen when they were both still unbeaten champions. But now, does it need to happen? For me, it doesn't need to happen. There are many other fighters coming up in the game. You know, Bakadir Jalilov, you got Martin Bakole, you got Filip Hrgovic, you got Jared Anderson. You got so many fighters coming through in the heavyweight division. And of course, the two main guys in the division, Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury, fighting each other. So there's plenty going on in the heavyweight division. We don't necessarily need the Joshua Wilder. It would be nice, but we don't necessarily need it. That's my take on it. Give me your take in the comment section below. In fact, before I go, I should just comment on Andy Ruiz being a potential opponent for Deontay Wilder. Now, Malik Scott said Ruiz has more chance of fighting Wilder at this stage. And Ruiz has piped up again recently saying that he wants to, you know, open up negotiations again, reopen negotiations for the Wilder fight. Some people might think that these are just negotiation tactics by Wilder, you know, claiming that he's going to go off and fight Ruiz instead of Anthony Joshua. To me, Wilder doesn't seem keen on that fight against Andy Ruiz. I think he priced himself out, quite frankly, previously, hoping that the Anthony Joshua fight would get made. But since the Anthony Joshua fight seems to have hit a stumbling block, maybe he will revisit the Andy Ruiz fight. If he can't get AJ, Ruiz is probably the next best thing other than a title shot. And obviously the champions are tied up at the moment, so they have to wait. He'd have to wait a very long time for a title shot. So maybe he's rethinking that Ruiz thing. But yeah, I don't think he's particularly keen on that fight. I'll do a separate video about it, but I don't think Wilder's that keen on it. I don't think his team are that keen on it. I know they talk about, oh, Deontay would knock Andy Ruiz out cold. Maybe he would, but let's see him do it. Yeah, talk is cheap. And Deontay Wilder has been outboxed by many fighters throughout his career, not just Tyson Fury. Yeah, he eventually got to them in the end and knocked him out, but he was being outboxed. He was being outskilled. And I would expect him to be outskilled against Andy Ruiz too, if we get the Andy Ruiz of old. I'll talk about that in a separate video. Let me know what you guys think about all the points I've raised in this one. And before I go, I want to give a shout out to all the new subscribers to my Patreon page. I cover loads of different topics in my weekly podcast, as you can see on screen right now, from current events to deep dives down the rabbit hole and everything in between. I'm really enjoying the feedback and the discussions we've been having on there lately. So if you'd like to join the conversation, just click the link in the description box below. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast, where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.